All right, sorry about that, folks. I'm going to put on your refresh your screen. Sorry about that. My computer just suddenly shut off. I don't know why. So I had to get it refired up here. So sorry for the technical difficulties here, but we'll go back. So yeah, like I was saying, you gotta have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Sometimes when you're working on that stuff. So let's see here where. Can't stop slicing. All right, so we're on Frank C here. So Frank C says, I'm a 20 handicapper and recently signed up. After watching the first few level 1 videos in every section, I basically need to really learn the entire swing. Mine is bad. Where do you recommend to start? Should I be doing hundreds of reps in the stable fluid spine section if the rest of the swing sucks? Thanks. Yeah. So basically where you should start is the stable fluid spine section. I work through each one. I've seen people have success working through level 1 of all of them, and then working level 2 of all the courses. I've seen people have success working through all of the stable fluid spine, level 1, level 2, level 3, then moving on to the power turn and doing that. So you'll start out in the stable fluid spine, get that looking good, get to where it's second nature, it's ingrained. If you want to just do level 1, and then you can go to level 1 of the power turn. It's really completely up to you. I've seen people have success both ways. So that's what I would recommend doing. Now, if you have a lot of time to practice, basically, if you have 2 or 3 hours to practice a week, I would just stick with one piece at a time, and just try to get better every day. You're not going to be able to change everything at one time. It's just not going to happen. So, but if you have more than that, let's say you have 4 or 5 hours of practice, then you could be kind of doing the power turn as well. Work on them separately. But you can be doing the power turn. If you have 8 hours of practice, you can throw in another piece to work on. So that's kind of how I would give yourself, if you have it, if you don't have three hours of practice a week, 2 or 3 hours of practice, your progress is just going to be pretty slow. But if you do, then I would just stick with one piece. But if you have another few hours, then I would maybe do 2 pieces and so on and so forth. But yeah, you can do it either way. Richard S says, hi, I'm right-handed. My shoulder ends up on my chin as I complete my swing. When I can extend it away from my chin, I hit better shots. Can you recommend a specific video or drill to help me? When my shoulder ends up on my chin as I complete my swing. I mean, I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. I would say that your issues with your swing probably don't have anything to do with your chin, I would guess, hitting your shoulder. So, I mean, I don't have any drills to give you because that's not something I've ever tried to have anybody do, because that's not a bad thing to have. I mean, I think almost everybody's chin comes close to their shoulder in their follow through and their finish. I mean, yeah, that's about where your chin should be. So, I would imagine it's just a coincidence that you hit better shots. I don't think it probably has nothing to do with that. So Harold G says, I recently started pull hook. Where does that come from, and how do I stop that? So it could be a lot of things. It's hard to say exactly without seeing your swing. But a pull is just based on the face being closed. So pull hook. The ball is going to start mostly in the direction of the club face. So if the ball is starting, if you're right-handed, the ball is starting left, just means the face is too close. And there's lots of things that could be going on there. But one thing you can do is weaken your grip a little bit. So if you weaken your grip, that will make it a little bit easier to not close the face so much. And when I say weaken the grip, that just means turning your hands on the grip more in this direction. So that'd be counterclockwise on the grip. Makes it a little bit weaker so that the face may not be as closed. You may have too strong of a grip. If you have too strong of a grip, you may be coming in and the face is just closing too much on you. You could be hanging back a little bit. So a lot of times I see people that they kind of hang back. When you hang back, the face will roll over quickly. And a lot of times you'll get that. So work on your compression line. Go to the compression line section and work on getting nice and just, excuse me, slightly angled away at contact instead of too far angled away and having the hands roll over too much. That could be what's going on. I would say the main thing is the easiest thing, and the thing that would be essentially for sure help you would be, one, weaken your grip, and two, intentionally try to leave the face open. So I would be trying to feel like you're holding this face almost like the palm of your trail hand is pointing up the sky as you're coming through contact. That's what I would try to feel like. That's not the reality of what's going on. The reality of what's going on right now is your face is closed and you're probably looking like this, after contact. So I'd be trying to feel like the opposite, which is the other way, right? That you're kind of holding that face open a little bit. And if you overdo it, then just ease off it a little bit. If you actually get the ball to start too far to the right, you start hitting block pushes or something like that, then you can just ease off it a little bit. But that's what I'd recommend doing. All right. So Nicholas P says, I've been using feels of right bend in the downswing to hit draws and higher right shoulder through impact to hit fades. Is this reasonable, congruent with stable fluid spine? I mean, feels are all relative. So as long as you're getting the results that you want, I mean, you can be feeling something completely different, and that's not, necessarily what's happening. So if you're getting the results that you want, then that feel is completely fine. That feel may not work well for somebody else to hit a draw or a fade, but it works well for you. So I would say, yeah, that's completely fine. It makes a little bit of sense to me, because if you have the feel of more right bend, assuming you're right-handed, more right bend means as you're coming through contact, you may be more angled away, which is going to make it easier to swing from the inside and get a draw. And then you mentioned higher right shoulder. Yeah, so a higher right shoulder would be the opposite of that, which would mean you'd be more vertical, which would make it a little bit easier to swing more out to in. Now, are those the reality of what's going on? Maybe, maybe not, but it's getting you the results that you want. So I would say sounds pretty good. So Gufran A says, ideal finish position. The main thing is just coming all the way around into a full finish is the main thing. The biggest issue I see with most people is that they don't come all the way around. So they hang back, they're on their back foot, they don't turn all the way through. Ideally, what we want to have happen is we want to get our hips to come all the way around and be pointing at the target. In order to do that, we need to get this heel coming off the ground. We need to get up on our toes here. Typically what I see with people who had trouble finishing their swing is that they keep this foot on the ground. If you do that, you can't turn. It acts as an anchor for your hips and you're not going to be able to turn. So loosen up that heel, get that coming all the way around. You get the shoulders working left of the target, right? And then basically, the club can be anywhere. You see some people are more like this. You're going to be some people that are more like this. Some people are more like that. None of them are wrong. They're all completely fine. The main thing is just allowing your body to come all the way around into that full finish. And the big key there is to let that heel get up on the toes. We want to see all the spikes. You want to be able to see all the spikes on the bottom of your shoe there when you're in the full finish position. So Thomas P says, can you give some feels for weight shift to front foot? Where should you feel the weight on the front foot? How do you keep the hips back and not extended? Okay, yeah. So basically, weight shift should be initially, you're going to feel the pressure mostly on the inside of your foot, and then as you're coming into contact, it's going to be moving toward the heel, and then it will get on the outside of your foot eventually as you come all the way around, as you're twisting all the way around. That's basically what's going on there. To keep your hips from extending, you need to actually get some flex in the legs first. What happens when I see with people who struggle with early extension, typically what happens is it's the first thing that they do. So they get here, they're at the top of the swing. They're in a great top of the swing position. But the first thing that they do in the downswing is they extend. What we need to do as we start the downswing is we need to get more flex in the legs and then get this belt buckle kind of pointing down toward the golf ball. And then you extend from there. You want to extend. You just need to go down first and then extend up. That's what you're going to see with all great players. What you're going to see is when they come down, they start this downswing. So they'll be up at the top of the swing here. You're going to see they get this flex in the legs. When their lead arm gets parallel to the ground in the downswing, you're going to see their hips are basically back to square, and they've got flex in those legs. And then they keep turning, right? And this is where the extension's happening, right? Doing this at this point in the swing is the same thing as this. It's just that I've gone down and then I'm extending up. So that's what you have to do to get rid of that extension, is to get down first. You need to reflex the legs, get down first, and then that's where you extend up. So we have our Stop Early Extension course. There's reasons why people don't do it. One reason is because they're throwing the club, they're losing their lag. Another reason could be they're coming down steep, right? And then they have to stand up to get it on plane. Another reason is that they're releasing the club early to square the face. So you have to extend to the hips right away to make room for the club. Otherwise, if I do that same move and I do that, well, I'm going to hit the ground a mile behind the golf ball. So you're making compensations in your swing to be able to hit the golf ball well. And you can hit the golf ball well with early extension. It's a little bit harder to be consistent. It's why you don't see a lot of tour players with early extension. There are some with a little bit of early extension. Jimmy Walker has a little bit of early extension. But most players, you're going to see none of that. So what I'd recommend is really exaggerating this, really doing some drills where you get here and you really push in, right? And you really get these legs spreading, these knees spreading apart from each other and turning like that. Set yourself up a little station. You got your pool noodle here. Put an alignment stick in there, put the pool noodle in there. And then as you start that downswing, push back into that. That's what you have to do first, and then extend up. That's the move that's got to happen. All right, so Gouffron says, if I keep my chin to right shoulder in finishing position, and then I'm not sure. So chin to right shoulder in the finish position, that's good. That means if you've got your chin on your right shoulder, it most likely means that you come all the way around. I mean, you can be in this kind of position, have my chin on my right shoulder and not come all the way around, but if I take that and then I come all the way around, now that looks like a good finish position. So a lot of it's about, having the legs come all the way around too. So Chris V says, my issue has always been the arms getting disconnected from upper body, lifting in too steep in downswing. So you do want to have disconnection in the swing. You do want that to happen. You just want to basically kind of reconnect in the downswing. Because if I stay connected, right, if I'm taking a full swing anyway, now pitch shot, I can stay connected, right? It's really, I'm just pivoting, right? So it's just pivot. I don't need to disconnect my body because when we're talking about connected, those of you who are unaware of what this means, it basically just means keeping my upper arms kind of close to my body, not pinned to my body, but close to my body is essentially what that means. So if you see here throughout this entire swing, if I'm just doing a pitch shot, which would be more of just kind of a pivot of my hips, a little bit of the lifting of my arms. So it's kind of looks like that, right? So if you look at it from this angle, my arms aren't leaving my body at all. But if I'm taking my driver out, where I'm taking a full swing, as I bring this club up, as I get to about right here, I've got to start disconnecting this arm. All right, because if I try to keep it connected to my body, This is about as far back as I can swing, right? And that's just not gonna, I'm not gonna be able to create a lot of power from here. So I want to get disconnected so that I can get my hands and my, get the club and the hands a lot higher. And then I just need to bring it back in the downswing. So if you look at all great players or anybody who's long for the most part, it's typically what you're going to see is you're going to see the arm disconnecting to the body. And then in the follow through, we disconnect again, right? We want the arms going away from the body as we come through in the straight line release and afterwards. So really the only place that matters to be connected is at impact. That's at impact. We want to have our lead arm pretty close to our chest area here. And then our trail arm is going to be bent and pretty close. It's not going to be pinned in, but it's going to be pretty close, to our ribs right there. So that's typically what you want to see. So if you are, depending, it's hard to say, what's going on without seeing your swing, but you just need to get into a position where we're disconnected and then we're bringing it back in, right? That's where we want to get to, is where we're bringing that club back in. It could be that you kind of get up here, you get the arm kind of bent and stuck behind you, and you can't get it in front of you without pushing it. And when you do that, you'll come down steep. It's hard to say without seeing your swing, but like I said, it's all about bringing it in the downswing. So what I would do, what you can do, is I just do some swings where I go up to the top, I'm disconnected, and then I will come down halfway, nice and slow, and pause, reconnect, right? Make sure I'm nice and shallowed out, reconnect, right? And then I'll come down to impact and then in the full finish. And then what I can do is I can add the golf ball and I can do some really, really slow swings where I go up to the top. I kind of come down right here, go really slow. I do it basically like a couple pumps. So pump, and then hit the ball and get that feeling. And then I would work through that and go a little bit faster. And then I would try to take the pump out of there. So I go up to the top, no pumps, and I'd pause at the top. I'd go really slow and get in the position I want. And then what I would do is once I start to feel comfortable with that and I get up to speed, now I'm going to take out the pause at the top. I'm going to add some fluidity to it. I'm just going to kind of go up and nice and fluid and come down. So that's what I'd recommend doing. But like I say, it's hard to say without seeing your swing what exactly the issues are. All right. So Thomas J says, hi Q, I'm struggling with dipping and lunging towards the ball on the downswing and sliding too far left. When I stop this, I then struggle with completing my rotating swing. Do you have any drills to stay centered and then also finish my swing? Yeah, so it sounds like you're struggling with the same issue that somebody else was talking about earlier about wanting to get that proper weight shift and the rotation. I'm guessing what you're doing is you're here and then you do this, right? You extend right away and you're probably not rotating until after your arms are swung in front of your body. You kind of have that false weight shift rotation that we see all the time where we're at the top here, the arms are being thrown in front of the body, you're lunging, you're here, and really the rotation comes after this from the arms and the hands and the club, the momentum of all that, and that's how you come all the way around. That's where your rotation comes from. But the reality is that you're not really rotating. It's just your arms that are flying in front that are allowing you to come all the way around in the aftermath of it. So what you need to do is you need to get the reflex in the legs. So that's what I would do is set up that swing station, alignment stick in the ground, pool noodle, whatever it might be, set up that swing station, go up to the top, and then I would pause, pretend like that's still there. I would come down and I would pause when lead arms parallel to the ground. I'd pause. I'd get my butt back into that. I'd get my hips back to square, lead arm parallel to the ground. I'm going to have that flex in my legs here. I'm going to be like this. And then from there, it's a lot easier. So if you imagine, if I'm trying to rotate my hips here and I didn't have any flex in my legs, that's about as much as I would rotate my hips. Now I'm going to put some flex in my legs. Now how much can I rotate my hips? I can rotate my hips a ton, right? So that's, you can't really, and with a lot of power as well. Like I can really do this powerfully. From here, there's not a lot of power in that. So we have to get that flex in the legs. We've got to get the knees kind of working apart from each other so that you can turn and rotate your body. So that's what I'd recommend doing to get into that better position so that you're not lunging at it right away. So Bernard Q says, I'm having trouble turning my hips. I still want to slide. Any tips? Yep. So, I mean, it's the same thing there, Bernard. Hopefully, a lot of people struggling with the same thing. It's pretty, it's pretty common, really. So Bob L says, what are the movements from the last parallel position where the hands are by the right hip and the club is parallel? What are the movements from down to impact? Mostly it's rotation and a little bit of the release of the club. So he's talking about when you get down to here. So typically when you're here, hands in front of the trail thigh, ideally that club's going to be around parallel to the ground. That's where you see in the best players, right? You're going to see the heels starting to come off the ground a little bit. Typically you're going to see the bodies opening up a little bit. So my hips are probably going to be about 20, 30 degrees open right here. And most players, that's what you're going to see. And then you're going to see the hips continue to open up a little bit. They're going to continue to open up as they get to impact, and the club's going to release a little bit. And hopefully that face is already pretty much square, right? So there might be, depending on the player, not everyone's going to be the same, right? You're going to see some players that have the face a little bit more square than others, but typically you're going to see the face is already pretty square. But some you'll see the toes a little bit up and they've got to square a little bit as they come into contact. But either way is fine. But you're going to see rotation of the hips and then a little bit of the release of the club. And it's going to be this position right here is typically what you're going to see. 45 degrees open about with the hips, chest, roughly 20, 30 degrees open. My shoulders are going to be relatively square to slightly open, somewhere in that area. My heel is going to be coming off the ground. I'm going to have a little bit of flex in my lead leg usually, but the leg is straightening out. I think I got a question. It was either from a student or from a previous office hours talking about that straight leg at impact. You're not going to see a lot of tour players. I don't think there are any that have a completely straight lead leg at impact, but there are definitely some that are more straight than others. But what you're going to see in pretty much every single one of them is that leg is going from a flex position to a straightening position as they come into impact. And usually it's in that straight line release. And after is when you see the leg completely be straight. So someone like a Brooks Koepka, he straightens it earlier. He's going to be releasing that or straightening that up right in the straight line release. Someone like Adam Scott, his hands are in front of his chest by the time his lead leg completely straightens out. So it's mostly going to be hip rotation and a little bit of the release of the club to get the club into impact there from that position. So Jason M says, I keep wearing out my golf on the outer part of the left thumb, gripping too hard for sure. Why the thumb area? Any tips to swing with a lighter grip? Is there grip setup issue? So if you're probably putting too much pressure, in that, if it's wearing off right there, you're probably just putting too much pressure into it. At setup, basically grip pressure, you want to put basically as little pressure as you can into the grip without losing control of the club. So grip pressure is not constant throughout the swing. It's going to be very light initially, and then as you bring up the club to the top, it's going to get more, and then as the speed picks up, you're going to have to put more pressure into the grip. So this whole idea that you hold it like a baby bird or a tube of toothpaste, you don't want to squeeze out the toothpaste, is really, that works at address. But once the speed picks up, if you actually hold the club out like that, you're just going to throw it, right? You're not going to be able to hold on to it. So typically what you're going to feel like is mostly in these first three fingers of the lead hand. That's where you're going to feel most of the pressure there. That's where you should be. Now, you could be holding the club too much in the lifeline of your hand, which would look like this, right? And if I do that, then, because basically the most amount of pressure is going to be furthest away from the head, right? So if you just went up to somebody and you held the club and they pulled on it, you're going to feel the most amount of pressure the furthest away from the club head. So if you have the grip like this, and two, it makes it difficult to hinge the club. Right? So this would be not ideal. And if you look here, my primary pressure point is going to be right here. So you probably are gripping the club incorrectly. What you want to have is what we would call a short thumb, but more, it's basically in between the fingers, but you also have the short thumb, right? So this would be long thumb, right? And that wouldn't be good because we're not getting a lot of coverage on the club, and I can hinge it like crazy, which is great, but I don't have a lot of coverage on the club, so I'm not going to be able to put as much force in this handle, which is going to hurt my speed. I don't want to be in the position that you're in, the too short of a thumb, because it puts it too much in the lifeline of my hand. I can't hinge the club at all, and I don't have a lot of coverage on the grip. So you want to be in between there. So that would be basically, there's a little bone right here in your wrist. You want the club to be right under that, and then be right in that kind of position. So you can see here, I have plenty of coverage on the grip. I have the short thumb. I can hinge the club properly. It's going to make it a lot easier. And then your other hand just goes, the lifeline of your hand goes right on top of the thumb right there. And there's your grip. You can do interlock, overlap, 10 finger, whatever's most comfortable for you. You can do all of those. Any of those are just fine. And that's basically just how you put it on there. So you're probably holding it like that. So I would recommend going with the not so extreme short thumb. Get it more in the fingers a little bit, and you'll feel that pressure point more in this area as opposed to the thumb, most likely. All right. So Bob K says, I'm working on a particular drill at the course. Is it better to stick with single club or work through the bag? Thanks. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I shouldn't say that. It does, because, I mean, for a driver, obviously it's going to be different than for an iron. So it's good to get the feel for that. But it's not going to be much different from a 5-iron to a 9-iron, really. But yeah, there's going to be a little bit of a difference between a wedge, most likely, and an iron and a 3-wood or driver. So yeah, you can work on that. Basically, what I would do initially is do it with a middle club. So be able to do it, get to where you can do it at first with a 7-iron or something like that, and then work your way up. Once you get to where you're able to do it, then you can up the difficulty a little bit. But it may be too hard initially for you to do it with the driver or something like that, just because you're not able to get it with a 7-iron. You're probably not gonna be able to get it with the driver at first, but get to where you can do it with the lower club first and then work up from there. So Cordell A says, I have a 10.5 degree driver, TaylorMade, and I'm hitting the ball well, but too high. I'm losing about 20 yards distance. The ball is not penetrating ball flight. It does not matter whether I tee the ball low or high. I still hit towering high drives. Do I need to flatten my swing arc? What do you think is causing the high ball flight? It's hard to say without seeing your swing, but I mean, you can lower the loft on your driver. The strike on the face could be part of it. But yeah, probably too much loft. If the shaft may be kicking at a little different time, incorrect time for you, that's making you hit it a little bit higher. It's hard to say without seeing your swing or seeing what's going on, but you can adjust the loft. I get some foot powder spray, see where you're striking on the face. You could be striking it too high on the face. And if that's the case, I actually try to hit it off the lower part of the face, and it'll move it closer to the center. So Bob M says, hi Q, a few questions for today. Difference between releasing lag and flipping? No difference. It's just the same way, saying the same thing. If you're flipping, it just means you're releasing the club too early. So a flip would be this, right? So that's the same thing as releasing the lag. You're just doing it too early. So there's no difference there. It's just the same thing as saying, I mean, I guess releasing lag could be anything, right? You could be flipping and releasing lag, and you could be releasing the club out in front and still be releasing lag. But flipping is when you release the club early. And then he goes on to say, 2, in power turn, is there anything you do with your hands at the top? I think I am trying to hinge the wrists a little, probably should not. Yeah, I mean, you're hinging the wrist at the top, right? So you're going to be in more of a thumbs up position. Ideally, you want to create a good structure at the top, so that way you can, go in the downswing correctly and not have to make any compensation. So if I'm at the top of the swing and I have my hands like this, that's effectively opening the face. I'm going to have to do something as I'm coming down, either with my body or what, to compensate for that. So ideally, we'd like to see a flat lead wrist to slightly bowed, and then a trail wrist that's in that bent back position. All right. So that's going to be tough. That's going to be a better structure for you. And then we like to see a little bit of hinge there at the top. So thumbs up should be radial deviation. We want to be in that thumbs up position. That's going to allow you to create that lag in the downswing. So there's actually a drill in the Top Speed Lag course, thumbs up, thumbs down drill. That's good for that. And then 3 says, during drills, how hard should I be swinging? I feel like I'm swinging too hard and wonder if I lose, and slow is better learning the moves. Yeah, so you want to start out slow and then build up the speed, get to where you can do it slow. So the way that I always try to work through it is, let's say I'm starting out with something and I'm just trying to literally go as slow as I have to go to be able to get into the position. And then I'll do it. Then I'm constantly trying to go faster, but I'm making sure that I'm doing the moves correctly. So you need to have video out. You need to have some sort of feedback mechanism telling you if you're doing it correctly. So whether that be video, whether that be, if you're working on fixing your slice, that could be the swing station that I talked about earlier. There could be a lot of things there. So you just have to start out slow and then build up the speed. So I'd start out at 25% speed. Once I get it at 25% speed, then I'll try to do it at 50% speed. If I do it at 50% speed, then I do it at 75% speed. So let's say I worked up and I got up to set. Now I'm going to attempt a 75% speed, and I don't get it at 75%. Then I back it back down to 50%. That's your punishment for not being able to get it. And if you keep doing that, you keep pushing the envelope to go faster and faster, you will get there. But yeah, you got to start out slow. If you can't do it fast, you're not really changing anything. So try to start out slow, then build up the speed. So Trish W says, find the 60-yard shot, a kiss of death. Any tips? Yeah, so depends a little bit on your swing speed, but basically this is how I hit the 60-yard shot. So what I'll do is I will use a wedge. Typically, I use a 54-degree wedge right now, and I'll take a narrowish stance, be kind of like this, and I will preset my body open. So what that helps me do is that helps me to open up my body through the shot. Just makes it easier. And since this shot is I'm not trying to get distance, I'm trying to get a specific distance, right? I'm trying to get 60 yards. I don't need my full swing to do that. So that's the problem. That's why we don't do that for every shot, because if I set up with my hips open, right, I'm not going to be able to turn back very far. But I don't need to have it take a full swing with this. So I set up with my body already a little bit open, right? And I get my body leaning forward a little bit. So a little bit of a forward lean, weight on the lead foot. And I'm just going to basically, that's the 60-yard shot right there, is just to take your wedge, open up the body, and pivot the body. I see a big reason why I see people struggle with the 60-yard shot is because they use all arms with it, right? So they just kind of go all arms, and that's going to make you come down steep. You're going to get this leading edge into the ground, and it's going to be difficult to control it. So what I like to do, like I said, is I'll get my body opened up already. I'll get my weight forward, and I'll try to keep it there. And I think more of a pivot. Really, what's bringing the club up here is more the pivot. There's a little bit of lifting of the arms, but it's mostly the pivot of my body going back. So I'm feeling pivot and through. I'm pivoting through, and I'm letting the club kind of come along with me. That's what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to finish in that same spot on the other side. And I'm staying connected. We talked about earlier, disconnection. If I'm swinging all arms, I'm going to probably get disconnected. I'm probably going to get steep. If I pivot, then I'm going to be able to come in nice and shallow. If you watch tour players, typically when they hit these shorter wedge shots, a lot of times they don't take a divot at all. And that's because they're coming in so shallow with the turf. They're just kind of brushing the turf as they're coming through. That allows them to get a lot more spin on the shot. So work on setting up a little bit open, get that weight forward, and feel more of a pivot, and just let the pivot back and through, and keep your weight forward the whole time, and you should be more consistent if you do that. And you can do that. That's not just a 60-yard shot. You can back that down from 50, 40, 30, all the way through. It'd be just a shorter swing. All right, so answer a couple more questions here. So we had the issue with it locking up on us. So Tom E says, what is your best drill to avoid early extension other than the wall drill? I mean, they're pretty much all the wall drill for the most part. I know essentially it's just exaggerating the opposite, because if your issue is here's a good one, the slap shot drill. So split grip drill. So if we're doing a split grip drill, I have to rotate and get down to the golf ball and get down in order to get this down to there. So if you kind of take your club, hold your lead hand, put your other hand just below the grip like this, right? And what you can do is you can kind of take some swings where you're like this, where you go up to the top, and then you really feel to hit a ball. And you don't have to hit a ball when you do this, but you can. It's tough. But to hit a ball, you would really have to get down to this and really, really open up. It forces you to really rotate your body. So this would be a good feeling. You can see I'm intuitively, I've got to get down to go get that. Whereas if normal shot, I may be going like this. This is forcing me to really rotate and get down there because my hand's so much lower. And it's just a good feeling. So I think that's a really good one. Slap shot drill. So that's why I call it slap shot drill. But really the best thing you can do, and here's the reason why a lot of people ask for drills, different drills, because it's uncomfortable, right? And there's no magic drill that's going to make it feel comfortable for you. It's going to be uncomfortable for a while. You just got to really, really, really exaggerate it as much as you can. Get that butt pushing back, and you can do pump drills with it. You can get balls with it, always trying to push the envelope, always trying to go faster. But you can do that slap shot drill to try and that may help you get a better feeling of how low you have to get and how much you got to rotate. So yeah, lost stream died. Having a hard time shallowing the club out. Club face is open. Any suggestions? Yeah, so work through the move course, Pat. So Pat's saying having trouble shallowing out the club. Work through the move course. Start out slow. The tennis racket drill is the best drill for this. So I actually have a tennis racket right here. If you go to the move course, this is I think the third video in the move course, the tennis racket drill 1.3. But what you're doing in the tennis racket drill, and the reason why we use a tennis racket is because it's easy to see the orientation of the face when with a tennis racket. It's very clear to me where this face is pointing. Whereas with a club, the leading edge, it can be a little bit difficult to tell. So that's why it's easy to use this. And plus, you can use it at home. You can do these all kinds of places. So what I'd recommend doing is do this drill, get that strings playing up to the sky and the club shallowing at the same time, and exaggerate it as much as you can. It's going to feel like you're going to move it a mile, but you're really only going to get about an inch of change, most likely. So get out of your comfort zone, really exaggerate it as much as you possibly can. Get this club parallel to the ground and that face so close that you feel like when you come into contact, the ball won't even get off the ground. It's just going to be like a low snap hook. That's what you're going to feel, like a smother hook. That's what it should feel like, and actually get to where you're hitting some of those. And we actually have a video at the end of the move course where you ease out of that. So get to where you're turning that handle down, shallowing that club, really turning into the ball a ton, and using that tennis racket drill and exaggerate as much as possible, and you'll get better with it. It's just a matter, you just got to exaggerate it more. So PR says 5, 6, 7, and 8 going too low. Suggestions. You might have too much forward shaft lean. We see this sometimes, but you might have too much forward shaft lean. So it's not the most often thing, but if you're leaning the shaft too far forward, you may not be getting enough air underneath it, and then maybe going too low. The other thing you may need is more club head speed, because the slower you swing, you imagine if I hit a shot at the same launch angle with a lot more speed, it's going to keep climbing through the air and go higher. So you may need more speed as well. So that's what I'd be looking at, is maybe getting your speed up. The 20-minute distance fix is a great place to do that. 20-minute distance fix, folks, it's not just your driver. When you raise your club head speed with your driver, you raise your club head speed with all of them, right? With all your clubs. The training is with the driver. You can do the training with the other clubs if you want, but I think it's more fun to do with the driver. But as your club head speed with your driver goes up, so is all your other clubs are going to go up too. So William B says, what order do you suggest to do the top speed golf system? Should I do all 3 level 1s, then level 2s, etc.? Should you do all 3 level 3s, sail fluid spine? Okay, yeah. So we talked about this a little bit earlier, but essentially you can do it either way. I recommend doing it in the order that it's laid out as far as the courses are concerned. So stable fluid spine, if you're good there, then you can go to the power turn. If you're good on the power turn, then you can go, because you're not, there's a good chance you're doing some of the pieces already pretty well. I see a lot, I get a lot of swings sent to me, for swing reviews and stuff. And I would say probably 60-70% of the time, spine angles are pretty good. It's not too often that we really have to work on them very much, right? So in power turn as well, I see a lot of swings. Most people are getting a pretty good power turn. So I'd be looking through those pieces in the order that they're set out in. So stable fluid spine, power turn, lag, compression line, release, the move. That's what I'd be looking at. And then what you can do is you can do all the level 1s in each one, or and then do all the level 2s and I'll do all the level 3s, or you can do the stable fluid spine, level 1, level 2, level 3. You can do either or. I've seen people have great success doing it either way. So just work through it whatever way you want to. There's no right or wrong way, but I would do them in the order that's set out, but you can do level 1s, then all level 2s, or you can do level 1, 2, and 3 in each section. That's up to you. So James then says, just can't seem to get the ball striking consistent, working on stable fluid spine. How in the world do I get the point that I'm striking the ground and the ball the same every time? So that's controlling your low point. So if we're coming down and the club is reaching a low point and then working back up, we need to be able to control where that point in the swing is. So there's all kinds of things that can cause a low point to occur more or later or sooner. But basically, usually it comes down to the way that you load up in the swing and the way that you have a weight shift or a momentum shift in the swing. That's usually what it comes down to. So when I mean by loading up is, if I'm not loading up correctly, meaning maybe I'm loading up on my my lead foot. Maybe I'm loading up right here. Well, if I'm loaded up right here, a lot of times what happens to people is they'll back away and they'll have what's called a reverse weight shift, where they actually shift their weight to their trail side. That's going to move the low point back. If your low point is before the golf ball, you're going to have trouble hitting good golf shots. We want that low point to actually be ahead of the golf ball. Your average tour player with a 7-iron has a low point. Basically, where the club reaches its lowest point is 4.5 inches in front of the golf ball. So after the golf ball. So the club hits the ball, continues to work down about 4.5 inches in front, and then starts to work up. So that's your typical. And then for wedges, it's further in front. And then for you work your way up to the back for like a 3-wood, it's going to be more like 2 inches in front of the ball. So, but it's always occurring in front of the golf ball. It's ball first contact, then low point, and then the club starts working back up. So if we have that reverse weight shift and we're falling away, that low point is going to happen before the golf ball. Oftentimes, we see people, they load up, but then they don't get to their lead side. So we want to get to where we're loading up and we're getting some momentum going to our lead side before we start the arms and the hands, because that's also an issue, because people they loaded up here, and then they throw their arms, and then they get what I call a false weight shift, where it's really just the momentum of the clubs and the arms and the hands that that bring them to their lead side. So what they really need to do is get that weight shift before we start the downswing, and then we can be pushing into the ground and have our low point more forward. So that could be part of it. So we actually have a course on the website dedicated to loading up properly and getting that proper weight shift, and that's the Stop Chunking and Topping course. To get to that course, just click the house icon, scroll down. That'll take you to the homepage. Scroll down the homepage, and then start working through that course there, Stop Chunking and Topping course. So I do apologize. Try to get through. So I'm going to answer the rest of these really, really quickly. All right. So Richard S. says, from a very good last parallel position, arrive at impact with the low forward shaft lean. From there on, I flip through impact. My arms fold close to the chest, very little extension through. Am I losing a lot of speed because of this? And why and how can I correct it? So yeah, you're most likely losing some speed. It's because you're throwing the club, so you're not rotating your body. Whenever you see the arms kind of collapse and you get kind of that chicken wing look, that's from the arms out racing the body. So we need to have the body opening up as we're coming into impact. It's hard to say what you need to do to improve that. Most likely straight line release, could be lag, it could be the move. Could be any of those courses. Look at your swing on video and see what's going on there pertaining to those pieces, and then work on them accordingly. So William B says, I am much closer to the PGA Tour speed with the pitching wedge than with my driver. Okay, driver, me, 105, PGA 113. Okay, what does this imply to you? It's possible that you're not fit correctly for your driver. You could probably be your driver might be a little bit too short, or it doesn't quite fit you right. It's hard to say. It could be that your pitching wedge is longer and you have more speed with your. It's hard to say without knowing kind of the makeup of your clubs and stuff, but you probably just don't have proper gapping with your clubs, it sounds like to me. So Bob P says, can't seem to get the ball flight lower on my drives, losing a lot of distance. Any suggestions? Hit it lower on the face. You're probably hitting it too high on the face. Lower the loft of your driver. Your compression line, you might be too angled away, causing you to kind of hit up on the golf ball. You may be releasing early, right? So flipping, adding loft to impact. Those are all things that could be happening. Look at your swing on video and then work on the straight line release or whatever piece that you need to work on to get that to be releasing more out front. So Ray J says, no matter what I try, I cannot get the ball started right of the target. I'm always pulling to the left. So I'd weaken your grip. Weaken your grip, meaning I would turn my hands on the grip to where my thumb would be more on top. And I would actually go out and intentionally try to get shots to start way to the right. So you're going to feel like you're not even you're rolling over the face at all. You're going to feel like the hands are like this as you're going through contact. So that's what I would try to do. Get the ball to start way right and then ease off of it. Odin K says, I cut my wrist at the top of the backswing, seem to straighten it at impact. Should I fix cupping? If so, how? It depends on, if you're good at impact, look at Freddie Couples. He's got a cupped wrist at impact, major championship winner, right? So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you are having issues with it, you're leaving the face open a lot, you're slicing a lot, then you just need to work on going up to the top of the swing, flat wrist. You can look it on video. You can take like a pencil and put it in your glove, or if you have a watch like this, you can kind of have your watch like that, and you'll feel, if you put something in there, you'll feel that if I do that, I'll feel the move around. So you can have some sort of feedback mechanism like that will tell you if you're cupping or not, and just start slow, build up the speed. RG says, how does DeChambeau create such speed? There's a lot of things. Basically, if you look at what he does in the system, he's nailing all the pieces of the top speed golf system. So big shoulder turn. He's getting more lag than he used to, for sure. He really drops down more. He used to not drop down very much, but now you can tell he's really using his legs and dropping down a ton and really pushing through with the legs. But But yeah, big shoulder turn and some lag are main pieces, and then how he's using the ground a little bit better is for sure. He's a lot stronger now too, which helps. So Brett R says, "What do you think of the flight chipping trainer?" I don't know. I haven't used it. I'll have to check it out. I haven't even heard of it, to be honest. But yeah, I'll have to check it out. I'm not sure what that is. Again, so sorry for the technical difficulties earlier today, but glad we were able to get it worked out and we were able to get a good session in today. So thanks everybody for joining me. We'll be back here tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Everybody have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you next time.